But first of all, I want to introduce myself. I'm Jaril Tudio, insurance consultant for Spinnaker Investment Group, and I specialize in life and health insurance. And I really love educating people in our community that we serve. So Julie, please share a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Jaril. My name is Julie Cho, and I'm the principal attorney of Cho Law Firm. I'm located in Irvine, and I specialize in estate planning. Been an attorney for almost 25 years now, and I just love to do estate plans and wills and trusts for my clients. And part of that is also doing some business transactional work for our clients. And so that's the client that you're referring to. I was able to help her on both the business side and the estate planning side. And she's just so great. I was really happy to be able to have some mutual clients with you. And I'm really excited to do this webinar with you also and, do our little coffee chat.
I know. So, obviously we all know what happened in 2020. We've been planning this meetup coffee. So we figured we'll do a virtual coffee meetup. So I have my espresso with me. So the purpose of this webinar is really, as I go about doing my business, meeting with business owners, meeting with families, different sizes, and this particular thing keeps coming up, and I wanted Julie to share this with us. So Julie, I'm going to start off. What is an ILIT?
So an ILIT is short for an irrevocable life insurance trust. And it's a trust that's established as a means of transferring wealth to specific beneficiaries during that individual's lifetime. And it's basically you're transferring funds so that it's not included as part of your estate at death. And by doing that, you're avoiding estate taxes.
All right. So you mentioned estate taxes. It's like, how does that happen? We were always told, what do you mean planning, tax planning, right? We were always told life insurance is tax-free.
That's exactly right. So life insurance proceeds are tax-free, but it's tax-free of income taxes. But what a lot of people don't think about is that the life insurance proceeds can be and will be included as part of your estate, and then therefore exposing you potentially to estate taxes. So you have to think of income taxes on one end and then estate taxes on the other end. So when a beneficiary receives proceeds from an insurance policy, they don't have to pay income taxes on that, but it's the deceased person or the insured on the life insurance policy, whether it's $1 million policy or whatnot, whether that $1 million is included in the deceased person's estate for purposes of estate tax calculation.
And then I remember you mentioned that we have to pay attention to those tax limits, right? So Can you expound a little bit on that and share that with us?
Sure. So estate taxes, it's a federal thing. Some states also have it. California, fortunately, does not. So we just deal with the federal estate tax limit. And it's whatever your estate is valued at over the state tax limit is going to be taxed. So currently, we have the benefit of an individual's tax limit being $11.7 million. So if you have your estate is valued less than $11.7 million, then you're not going to get taxed. But anything above that is going to be taxed at a tax rate of 40%. So today, if we were to pass, or in 2021, most of us in Orange County or the United States aren't going to face that. But with the new Biden administration and the tax limit and proposed tax laws, there's a potential for it to be reduced to $3.5 million, I believe is the number. But other things to keep in mind, though, is even if the Biden tax law doesn't pass, this $11.7 million, that's going to get reduced down to like about $5.5 million. And that's because the new law that Trump had passed is going to sunset in 2025. So it is going to get reduced. So we need to be aware of what the tax limits are so we can do the appropriate planning.
So how does an ILIT actually work?
Right. So the ILIT is basically the owner. So if, the typical person, we're employees and we get life insurance through our employer, right? So then the employee is the owner of that insurance policy. And then we name, our children or our spouse as a beneficiary on it. Those are the more, very, very straightforward life insurance policies. What happens with an, what's that?
I mean, I agreed with you.
Yeah. So what happens though with an ILIT though is that the trust, you set up a trust and it's an irrevocable trust, and that trust owns the policy. So it's no longer, me, the employee of a company, but it's the trust owns the policy, and then the trust is a beneficiary of the policy as well. But it ensures, my life, let's say, and the trust pays the insurance premiums. And then when I pass, the insurance company pays the insurance proceeds to the trust.
Now, it sounds like there's a lot of benefits with ILIT. And can you give like so for us to remember what are the basic benefits of an ILIT and why we should set it up?
Yeah. So let me just go back to the last point is the reason why it works with the ILIT, with the trust being the beneficiary is that by having the $1 million policy or $10 million policy, it paid to the trust, it's no longer part of my estate because it's owned by a separate entity, which is the trust. But so the benefits of that is, by doing that, is that it's taken out of the estate, right? So, so the state taxes are not paid. So this, a lot in this day and age, a lot of people who would really benefit from the ILIT are those who have assets over $11.7 million or double that for married couples. But so you set that up. So it's, if you do
you're saying that by, I think when it's sunset, right? All these taxes that we have now. So when it sunsets in 2022, the limits will change. So more people will be affected, right?
Right. So it's, yeah. So when the census in 2025, it's going to be about $5.5 million. So now it's cut in half. So those who have an estate value of, let's say, $6 million, they were not affected today, but they will be affected when the law changes or it sunsets, or even, if the Biden administration changes it to, $3.5 million, then you do have to do that tax planning. So the ILITs are really more for tax planning, in consideration of estate taxes. In terms of, those, there's some non-tax benefits that we can discuss a little bit later, but that's kind of the main driving force for a lot of people.
So you mentioned when we talked the previous time, you said this is also to rebalance or equalize inheritance.
Right.
Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure. So that's getting into the non-tax benefits of ILITs. And there are, lots of great benefits of using trusts and irrevocable trusts. And ILITs are it's another way of doing that. And so one of it is like you said, equalizing inheritance. So let's say I own a business that's worth, $5 million, or, some manufacturing business worth $5 million. I've got 2 children. One, my son is very much interested in this manufacturing business. He works with me and he's going to take over. But then I've got, a daughter who has no interest in the manufacturing business, and she's a physician, let's say, right? So then, but if I pass and after I die, then I want my son to take over the business. But then how do I equalize the inheritance between my 2 children? Because my son's going to inherit this very successful money-making $5 million business, but then my physician daughter doesn't get any part of that, or doesn't she won't get any part of it unless the business is sold, which my son doesn't want to do. So what you then do is you buy a life insurance policy, through an ILIT, and then have the proceeds of that eventually go for the benefit of my daughter, so that it's equalizing that inheritance part. So that's what I mean by that. Does that make sense?
Thank you for explaining that. As you were explaining that, my brain was just kind of like, oh, I could call this business owner, I could call this business client and talk to them about this benefit. So thank you for that. Now, the other non-taxable benefit of an ILIT?
So then there's also like creditor protection and divorce protection to the beneficiary. So if you have, and this can also work with a revocable trust, but then ILIT can also be used for that. So if I've got, my 2 children, let's say, or my daughter, in my hypothetical, so my daughter is a beneficiary of the ILIT, and with the proceeds being in the trust and managed by the trust, and a trustee, you have an independent trustee that's, determine the distributions of the trust assets to my daughter. By doing that, my daughter gets asset protection. So let's say she goes and gets into a car accident and injures somebody and gets a judgment against her for $1 million. That $1 million can't, the funds in the trust cannot be used to satisfy that $1 million judgment. If she had $1 million in her bank, in some brokerage account in her name, then that could be used and it can be reached in to satisfy the judgment, but not trust assets. Same thing with the divorce, divorce in California's community property. So if it's in her name, the spouse can make the argument that it's community proceeds, but if it's in a separate trust of which she's the sole beneficiary, then it won't be used for divorce, proceedings.
Wow, that's wonderful. I mean, I know when we sit down with clients and we're reviewing their planning for their retirement, I mean, no one really think of having creditor and predator. That's what they call it, right? And no one plans for that. But so most of my clients already have a estate plan, but I've never heard them talk about the ILIT. So it's really important that they review it. So how often should they be reviewing their plans?
So I always say it's when there's a life change, right? So there's either a death or there's a marriage or there's a birth or, some falling out in a relationship or, you win the lottery or, a great amount, an increase in wealth or a change in tax law, like I said. So when there's any kind of change that occurs, then that's when a review is beneficial. It doesn't always mean that you need to do an overhaul, but some changes. A lot of my clients are trust revisions also, where they had done it when their children were minors, but then now their children are older. So then we do a different distribution plan also. But those are the times that you can consider that.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel like with the new tax change that's coming up, you will be a lot busier than normal.
Yes, yeah.
So much for your time. So what's the best way to reach you if someone watching today would like to set up a consultation with you?
Sure. So they can call me on my office line, or they can always email me. I try to return calls within the same day or at least 24 hours. But I believe in giving a personalized attention to my clients. I don't have a paralegal or a legal assistant who screens the calls. You hear that a lot, and you have to answer questions for about 10 minutes before they can even get to talk to the attorney. But my whole approach is to be the friend and to be the consultant to my client. So I like to speak with them directly.
And I know that you work in Orange County. If we have some viewers today that would be coming from out of a different county or out of state, would you be willing to assist them on that?
Oh, absolutely. And, with COVID, it's really broadened our geographic area in any kind of practice, because they've learned about how to Zoom, and even like my older clients, they know how to Zoom and they're into technology. So I've been doing a lot of intakes and consultations over Zoom. The final signing does have to be in person, but I'm willing to travel to some of my clients if it's harder for them to travel and whatnot, as long as it's within a reasonable distance, or I can send the package to my clients for the final signing. But the initial consultation is always complimentary, just like you, Jaril. We believe in educating our community and just getting the information out there. So the initial consultation is complimentary for my clients, so I can give them the information that they need, and then they can take it from there.
Thank you so much. Do you have anything you want to add?
Well, I just think that life insurance is just so great. It's such a powerful thing. And I think, I encourage a lot of my clients to consider it. I'm not the specialist, you are, but whether it's for, equalizing insurance or, asset protection or even like college planning, right? You can speak to that. But I think life insurance is great. And, and ILITs especially, it can be such a powerful tool.
Education really is, your defense on everything. I mean, without knowing that you have all these resources around, right? But thank you so much for doing this with me today. For everyone, please feel free to reach out to us. Our phone numbers are on our screen right now. And thank you so much, Julie. I'll see you now. Thank you.
Bye.